Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. In this tutorial, we're going to discuss my favorite topic, forms. Now before I go and demo the forms, I'd like to structure our web page because at this point in time it's not really looking it's not looking nice. So I'll structure it a bit, and to do that I'll maybe remove this, and actually inside the div I would like all our references to maybe put them in unordered list so it looks nice. Actually, instead of, I mean, the priority isn't to make it look nice, but in fact to make it more structurally better, right? So if now I open this, I can, oh, I should have put them in a list item, right? So that's that. Now if I see our web page, that looks good. And I don't want to put any other uh, navigation here. I can just use. So now that's done, I would like to start the demo of basically our form. So for that, I'll create a new page inside our folder, and I would write like forms.html, and just as we have been doing. Right, and now the fun part begins, which is form tag, and it has like two important attributes, action. Now action action is used to tell where we are sending our data. It could be another page. In that instance, we can interact with JavaScript, or if the backend is C sharp, we are sending the data to like a C sharp application. And so form is essentially the front end where the user would enter some data, and then that would go to some application maybe at the back end, and that all that data can be fed into, like, let's say a table in a database, something like that, right? That's the intent of the form. When the user clicks a button, the data goes somewhere, right? So the action would define, okay, where you would like the data to go. And right now we don't have anything at the back end, so I'll just leave that empty. For method would mean uh, which method we are using to send the data. Now, uh, get, there are like essentially two options, get or post. To be honest, I'm not too sure about dialog, so but generally speaking, we use post, and the reason for that is post sends the data uh, in the form of the body, and it makes um, our request very secure, particularly if you're using HTTP. Whereas in GET, the data is sent across the URL, and it's not safe. So for that, and for that reason, we'll use post. Now, once that's done, I'll like to have a label and first name and input. That's the text someone will be writing. And actually, I would put a line break as well because I want the input to appear on the next line, right? And the type, so now the type can be of many types basically, from button, checkbox, file, hidden image, and all sorts of things. But for our purpose, I'm only gonna use text. ID. So ID is like, it's, think of it as a unique identifier for the input, or for any other matter. ID is very common attribute among many different tags. For our case, we'll name it as ID, and name is just another attribute, and name is used for if you're sending data from one page to another and things like that. But ID is like the unique identifier. In most of the cases, you would name them the same. And required just tells like if you click on the button and you haven't given any information on this field, it would essentially give you an error. And I'll copy the break line here as well. And in fact, I'll copy the row. And finally, I'll have a button and submit, right? And type is button. That's it. Now I'll come to the index page and reference the forms page. Now, if I oh, because I have written schedule twice, so I'll rename it forms page. And now if I come here, go to this page, yeah, my form is ready. I'll now just to show the error, if I press submit, that should have given us error. Um, oh, we haven't. If I go the forms, the important thing, the important thing which I forgot was there is a must parameter for basically how do I connect which label is connected to which input, and for that I need to provide the ID of input in our label. That uh, that way I know, okay, this input is related to this label basically. So if I do that, and that's done, and now if I come here and press submit, for some reason it's not giving me. Ah, I found out what the error was. So the button should not be of type button, because since we are submitting the form, it should be of type submit. So let's go and see if that has fixed our issue. So if now I come here and without filling in my form, I submit, it's just telling me please fill out the form. But if I do fill out and now I submit, obviously the page, because it's not set up to take me anywhere. That's just a broken page. So the other button I would like to show would be reset, and it's just to reset your text. Nothing super crazy. So if I show that, like I write something and then I can reset the text. That's it. There is another way of creating a form which I'd rather prefer. So I'll comment that out, and the I'll in before commenting that out, since it's very similar, I'll copy that and then I'll comment that out. All right, and so the preferred way of doing, I'd say, is that gives it more structure. I'd include that in a div, right? I will include that. That way, I'm telling to the screen reader, and I'll discuss what screen reader means later in the section, in another section. So that's telling my screen reader like, look, that's so div gives a structure to our web page, right? So we are telling, look, that's related to this, and that helps in organization organizing our code. Screen reader is an idea of how the web page would look without actually looking it. So I know it's a funny idea, but once we get into web accessibility or semantic HTML, I'll discuss on it. But it's essentially saying you shouldn't be doing uh, things which so how so so the idea of semantic HTML is uh, if there is a tag for, let's say, a button, use a button. If there's a tag for paragraph, use a paragraph instead of putting text in a div. So essentially, using HTML tag in more of its semantic meaning rather than just using HTML tag to use it more of a style element. So I'll discuss this in detail once I discuss semantic HTML. But anyway, um, now that's done, I'll put another, and I'll grab that. And while I'm doing this, I'll highlight one other. So this time, uh, maybe I want to show password, right? Because password should be hidden, and that's what this would allow us to do. And I remove break line, and then I'll explain why. Because every div by default comes with a break line. So that's that. Now, if I go to my web page, and first let me rename that to password. Right now, as we know about this one, but so that's what we wanted, right? So I'd like to showcase another input type, radio. Remember where you have like a couple of options in which you have to select one. Um, and before doing that, I should have put that inside div because so divs are used to put similar elements together or give some sort of structure to your web page, right? And before the submit button inside the same form, I'll write a div and then I'll put the input, and this time it's of type radio. Now let's say from the customer, let's say we are taking some sort of ratings, right? And say good, or maybe we start with a bad name, ratings, right value is bad, and for that, let's say I have a label and I would say bad. And the reason I'm putting input before label because in the if I open this, because in the radio button generally have you would have something uh, you generally would have something like the radio button and the text one, the radio button and text two. So that's why I'm putting uh, the input before the label, right? So that's the reason. And for the label, I'll obviously write for an ID bad and just and now good, that's good, and that's good. And if you look, I'm keeping the name the same because that's how you're going to link. Okay, that's the same selection for the radio button. Now, if I show the front end, and you can select either of them. And if I've selected bad and submitted, so the name property, which is ratings will have a value bad in that instance. So that's pretty much it. I wanted to cover it with forms. We can go with checkbox or yeah, checkbox, but I mean, you can, since this video is already pretty long, you can do that on your own, but that's the basic idea of how you structure your forms inside a web page. Thanks. I will see you with another tutorial.